Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, you know what? This is a commercial-free podcast just for my listeners on Memorial Day weekend. And the reason it's commercial-free is I'm not going to go through the intro, but the whole episode is basically a commercial. And I've only done a couple of these, and I think it's important. So most of you that listen or have been listening, if it's only been in the last year or so, you didn't know this. But if you listen to back episodes, you're going to hear me talk about gum leaf boots. When I first saw a pair of gum leaf boots in a magazine, they reminded me of another pair of boots, La Chamoux, and they were a much sought after boot in the, I will say, in the field trial world and the NAVDA testing world. I saw everybody wearing them, and I thought, well, these are those. They're different brands. It's called Gum Leaf. Well, what happened was Jack Butler, who has now become I would say, many-year friend of mine, he started importing this boot that you could only get in Europe. These are, handmade. Any of these high-quality, real rubber boots, I mean, not synthetic. Any of these boots, they have to be handmade. A machine just can't work with rubber like this. But anyway, I digress. I wanted Jack to come on and give us the kind of the backstory of what happened to Gum Leaf and what's new on the horizon. And he pulled it off again. He found another real, authentic rubber handmade boot, and it's called Arcus, A-R-K-U-S. And you're going to hear Jack and I talk about it, lavish about it, brag about it, and even talk about a few things that they aren't. But what they are is a great boot, and I'll be putting out another episode on Monday, Memorial Day. It's going to be a fun one. But until then, a little something to get you by on your drive from one house to the other and one barbecue to the next. I love you guys, I love you girls, and I love the Buckeye chapter of NAVDA even more. I am sorry for your loss. All right, everybody, the name of this episode is Jack is Back. It's so neat to have a name that rhymes with stuff. I'm on a modified Zoom call with Jack Butler, and I know most people know that name if they've been listening to the show. Jack brought gum leaf boots to this country, and I know a ton of my listeners have them. And there's some news on the gum leaf front, Jack. Why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, thanks, Ron. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity. Sorry, we've had some technical difficulties trying to get connected here, but let me bring you up to date with what's happening with gum leaf. As some of your hunting dog podcast people are already familiar with this, but back in November of last year, so about 5, 6, 7 months ago now, our factory over in Europe notified us that they were not going to make tall rubber boots anymore. And unfortunately, they didn't tell us that before their last production run. They just kind of sent us an email and said, oh, we're not making tall rubber boots anymore. So, yeah, that wasn't great. So that left me, fortunately, though, my last order was pretty sizable. And so I still have inventory, particularly of a lot of the Viking Neos and our Viking Zips or the Royal Zips, are almost sold out and gone away. But so last November, after hearing this from the factory, and they had some valid reasons, they back up to the Ukraine. The factory is in Slovakia, and they back up to the Ukraine. They've got super high energy costs. They had COVID issues still lingering. And plus, the factory also made a line of boots that was very popular in Europe called Novesta, or not boots, a line of sneakers that are very popular in Europe called Novesta. And so for them to stop production of sneakers 2 or 3 times a year to make gum leaf boots wasn't working out real well for them. So I think all of those factors entered into their decision to kind of drop out of the boot business, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I had stayed in touch with Alistair Patterson, who's the gentleman that started Gumleaf back in the early 1990s, and told him what was going on. He had sold off the brand about 5 or 6 years ago, and when I told him that the factory was no longer going to be making boots, he was the one that suggested another company that he thought I should look into by the name of Arxis. Arxis is a Swedish company, and he said the brand is kind of sweeping Europe right now. So last November, I contacted Arxis and told them that they probably weren't aware of it yet, but Gumleaf as a brand was going to be fading away, both in Europe as well as here in the United States. And so that I initiated discussions with the people at Arxis. They had no plans to come to North America for a variety of different reasons. But I expressed to them my interest, told them that I wanted to see and test several different styles of their boots. And so they sent me about 4 or 5 different pairs so I could test them out. And some other, my wife got a pair to test, and some other people in some other industries. So the deal with the Arxis boots is that it's an all natural rubber boot also. And it's a very high quality boot. I tested them for about 4 months. I wore 2 different styles. My wife has been wearing one that she absolutely loves. And I wanted to just test them for quality, the comfort factor, and durability. You really can't tell in about 4-month period, but knowing that the boots are made of 100% natural rubber, just like the Gumleaf boots were, I'm very confident that these boots are going to last a long time as well. So we just about a month ago inked a deal with Arxis, and so I've launched Arxis USA, and that's ARXUSUSA.com. And our website just went live about 2 weeks ago. So we're in a transition phase. I still have lots of the Gumleaf boots to sell into this fall, but we're also launching the Arxis USA line now. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, you said 4 months certainly isn't going to give you the longevity of it, but I think when anybody buys a pair of boots, in a couple weeks of wearing them, like at least the comfort's there, the support's there, that everything you liked about them was there. So
yeah, and then some. There are some differences between these and the Gumleaf boots, but they're both using natural rubber. The design is very different on some of the boots, and some people like the looks of the Arxis boots, or some of the Arxis boots, a bit more even than the Gumleaf boots. They have a number of styles that have zippers. They have varying degrees of neoprene on some of their different boots, so there's different levels of warmth, if you will. But all the Gumleaf boots use Vibram soles, and the Arxis boots uses a sole that they designed themselves. And I virtually couldn't tell any difference between them in terms of the comfort of the sole. And, particularly if you're wearing the boots all day long, I could tell no difference between the Arxis sole and the Vibram sole.
You know what? I'm looking at your website, Jack, and you got like 12 bullet points just to give an overview. One thing I think is pretty neat is they have a removable insole, like that felt.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. In the Gumleaf boot, there was not a removable insole because there was neoprene across the footbed of the boot, and it was stitched to the neoprene in the upper part of the boot. The Arxis is designed a little bit differently, where they do have an insole. As a matter of fact, they have 2 different insoles. One that's just an EVA insole that, you can take in or out of the boot or exchange. And they have one that I've just ordered in for the first time that I'll be testing. That's a wool felt insole. So that'll be good for colder weather, but I've just placed an order for that within this last week. Yeah. So, that is one point of difference, I guess, between the 2 brands.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you, all the boots I wear, I remember an early conversation you and I had, and I said, everybody I know always has a pair of rubber boots. Well, I use them a lot in spring training and when I'm judging dogs because the grass is soaking wet from dew. So, even though leather boots are quote unquote, Gore-Tex or waterproof, I don't know anybody that runs out in the morning and just puts their leather boots on. But historically, I've almost always pulled the insole out and found an insole that I like better. So I think that's a neat option that, now I will say I never had a problem with the gum leaf. I actually, and I never tried to put an insole in there, but I think that's nice. And I think if you got them a little wet or you went over as they say, you went over your skis a little bit, you could
Yeah.
you could pull that insole out of there. I like that. And the it's kind of like the poly cotton, the neoprene, and then the thicker neoprene, you've got it does kind of cover if you're just going to use them in colder weather, you can go with the heavier neoprene. And if you're just going to use them spring and fall like I do, spring to fall mostly, I would go with like just the 3 millimeter. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
how long have these boots been like Arxis been around? Is it a relatively new boot?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story behind him. The guy who's the chief designer, the guy who invented the Arxis brand, actually has been in the industry for 38 years. His
Okay.
name is Magnus Appler, and he's been in the industry for 38 years designing rubber boots. And 23 of those years, he was the chief designer for Les Chameaux. Now, Les Chameaux is a brand that many of your listeners are probably familiar with. They
Hmm.
used to have a factory in France. They closed that down in 2015. Now their boots are only made in Northern Africa. But Magnus left there in 2007 as their chief designer for 23 years in order to go back to Sweden to start Arxis.
Yeah.
So it's a really strong pedigree,
Yeah.
and I think the design stuff he's doing with rubber boots is the most advanced that I know about in the industry. We at Gumleaf, we always wanted to make, for example, a short boot or a mid calf boot or
All
something,
right.
and we really just couldn't do it because of COVID, and they had design challenges, and because of their sneakier manufacturing. They really didn't want to get into spending a lot of time designing new rubber boots. But Magnus is doing a whole bunch of things that's really interesting with different linings. He's got some styles there that, for example, have an air cell lining inside the neoprene. There's an air cell lining so that it actually takes moisture out of the lower part of the boot and evaporates it out the shaft of the boot. So, a lot of people will tell me, for example, oh, they've got really sweaty feet. This is a really good application
Right.
of aligning technology to help people like that. So that particular boot's called the Nord Lightweight LW, and it's a boot that weighs like about a pound less than a comparable tall rubber boot. So
Wow.
it's lighter, and it kind of has this breathability because of this air cell technology. So he's doing some really novel things with the brand, and I think it's a spectacular looking boot. The ones with the strap across the top, like the Nord Zip, the
Yeah.
Nord LW. My wife is wearing the Country Zip, and which she absolutely loves to death.
Right.
I think he's doing some advanced things in terms of the design features that he's building into the boots, and it's just a really good looking boot. On top of it to boot.
To boot. Now, speaking of
It
that,
is.
that Nord lightweight you were talking about that your wife's wearing, um, there's they look, oh, it was more like a dress boot for women, but it was still like a winter boot. That upper neoprene on that's what makes them lighter than the rubber, right? But it's
Yeah,
still waterproof,
it's still waterproof,
but
but
not for fishing in 18 inches of water.
right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I tested that out fairly recently by going to a nearby lake and standing in it, and to the very top of the boot. And it took about 10 minutes until I started to feel any moisture. It
Right.
wasn't like all of a sudden there was water gushing in it. It took nearly 10 minutes. So
Right.
yeah, exactly. Like you said, if you're just walking through tall grass and things like that, like, many upland hunters will be or something, I think it's a boot that could work really well, and it's
Yeah.
lighter weight, and it'll still give you, waterproof capabilities. If you were if you were a deer hunter walking through swamps and everything, looking for big bucks, I probably wouldn't recommend that boot. But
Right.
I think for the upland set, I think the Nord lightweight is definitely a boot that can work and provide waterproofness. Since you're probably not going to be standing in creeks or fishing in them.
Right. And like I remember you and I talked, probably what was it, 5, 6 years ago? I think we kind of partnered up, maybe at least 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember
Yeah.
asking about, like, when I go up to Alaska or when I'm just kicking around at home, like I said, did Gumleaf have an ankle high boot? And you said, no, but one of my customers took a razor knife and and, and
Yeah.
made themselves a pair of above the ankle boots. I said, well, I'll pass on that unless you're gonna send me an extra free pair that I can take the Stanley knife to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that was a landscaper up in Boston. He liked his the first pair of Gumleaf boots so much that he found them so comfortable. He bought some neoprene lined ones, and he liked them so much. He said, "Send me the field boot, which is just cotton lined." And then, like you said, he took a utility knife to the curve in the boot, and
right.
just made him an ankle high.
I kind of thought of that because in full transparency, I do have two pair of Gumleys and I could modify one, but now I don't have to. I don't
Don't
have
do that.
No, I'm not going to do that. We might, we might,
Yeah,
we might auction those off someday, as antiques back in, for Hunting Dog Podcast Antique Day. Um,
there you go.
I'll tell you something else that I like is you sent me home. I didn't get the boots because you were just importing them, but you sent me home with the boot bag. And I told you, you mentioned the name La Chamoux. That was the first time I saw, that was probably 25 years ago, a high quality rubber boot. And you just know when you see them. They're all the rest of them are, they've got some rubber in it. And I'm not saying that vinyl isn't waterproof, but it's not natural rubber, right? And the first time I saw
Yeah,
them, I saw a person that had, in fact, it was a woman wearing them. And at the end of the day, she put them in the Shamu actually has a kind of a form-fitting boot bag. And I'm like, she told me and I followed suit. When she travels, that's her carry-on because you got to have the boots when you get there because you're going to need them when you're judging or hunting or whatever. And she literally puts in her toiletries, extra pair of socks, underwear, anything she can slip in the boot and then inside the bag. And it's the perfect carry-on bag. So I had one of those back in the day. It zipper finally failed after about 25 years. I'm not going to fault them there. But you gave me an Arxis boot bag, and that's a sturdy ass bag. I
yeah, it's really nice. I mean, I always wanted to have a really nice boot bag as well at Gumleaf, and Gumleaf in the UK came up with one, but it was a little on the weak side in my opinion in terms of its design. It was kind of like taking a grocery bag and sticking your boots in it. There was nothing really fancy at all to it. Actually, it was more like taking a pillowcase and dropping your boots in it. But this new Arxis bag is solid.
yeah.
Like I said, this guy Magnus Appler really knows what he's doing. He's got good pedigree. He knows a quality product. He knows how to make one. He knows how to design boots that are cutting edge. He's using new technologies in them.
Right.
The boots have a flair to them that I think is really outstanding in terms of their appearance.
Yeah.
And he's got a variety of different styles that, not only the the mid calf boot. He's got an ankle boot, a Jude Par boot that is going to be coming out. I should have those sometime during July or August. It's just an ankle high boot, but I think it looks spectacular. I'm really pretty excited about those. You wouldn't wear them necessarily, in deep grass or if you're out, in thorns and
But, I mean,
out chasing grouse and woodcock and stuff. But if you want to just throw on a pair of waterproof boots to kick around in because you got wet ground or snowy ground or whatever, I think these are going to really fit the bill.
This is just I don't want to say a softball question. I'm looking on your website. They have a boot sock. I'm assuming that's probably a full-length calf sock.
Yeah, they actually have two different boot socks. It's really well designed. I got a pair of those too to test them out, but they're made out of lamb's wool and they've got elastic in all the right places so that the socks don't sag. And these they actually have two socks, one that goes up to your knee, and then they have another one that goes over your knee. And I kind of decided I'm not going to carry the over the knee socks, at least immediately. But I have already brought in inventory of the socks that go up to your knees.
Yeah.
So that'll be a kind of a nice addition, both for warmth and comfort, and the fact they're lamb's wool, and just the way they fit and they stay in place. I've worn tall socks before, and they have a bad tendency to fall. Yeah. And these don't. These really stay up on your legs, so it's pretty nice to be able to offer that as an option as well.
Yeah. So right off the bat, like you said in the beginning, there's still some options. When someone's seeing what you have left, what do will they basically go between Gumleaf USA and Arxis USA to kind of see what you've got in stock for right now?
Well, they're going to have separate websites.
Right.
Gumleaf USA will always be a separate website, but I would say for anybody that's interested, for example, from this point forward, you almost really want to look at both websites. Definitely give the Arxis a look just so you see the variety of different sizes and styles there. Right. But in the Gumleaf, we're getting to the point where we're almost sold out in many of the Gumleaf styles. But one key difference I would say between Gumleaf and the Arxis boots is going to impact bigger men and women who have bigger calves. So, for example, Gumleaf always had a style called the Viking boot that had a vent. Yeah, had a vent at the back of the calf that could expand out another 4 to 5 inches. So, I literally have some NFL football players that are wearing those because they just have such big calves. The Arxis boots don't have anything like that. They are kind of designed. They're not designed for big people. Let's put it that way right now. And so if somebody has bigger calves or wants to tuck in heavier hunting pants, then I would very strongly advise them to probably start first at the Gumleaf USA website and look at the Viking Neos. I have enough of those, I think, to get me into the fall. And then once they're gone, they're gone. Right. But if you have big calves or want to tuck in bigger, heavier hunting pants, and that won't, probably wouldn't apply so much for upland hunters as it does for some of our deer hunters. But I would definitely look at the Viking Neos if you've got big calves to begin with, male or female. And then, Arxis USA, you can see the variety of different sizes and styles we have. I'm still working on size differences. The Arxis boots do run a little bit smaller in women's sizes anyway than the Gumleaf boots do. In the men's sizes, it works out pretty comparable if you're a 10 or 11, US 10 or 11. And the Arxis boots also go up to a men's 15, which is, the Gumleaf boots topped out at a 13.
That's because
not a lot of people that.
Oh no, there's a lot of people up in Norway like that, though. Trust me, it's where they get to 6'7" is not a big deal up there, Jack. So
yeah, well, in gum leaf boots, we always topped out at 13s. And yeah, so having a boot that goes up to size 15 now, there's a bell curve around boot sizing, with men's 10 and 11s occupying about 51% of the U.S. population. So after that, it just falls right off into your 12s and your 13s, let alone when you get out to 15s. Yeah. But I do get calls periodically, from guys that have feet that big.
Yeah. So going forward, I mean, I know we said you might want to look at both websites, and obviously at some point the gum leaf website will be down. Are we still going to carry those wonderful Jaeger leads at some point that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, no, I've got the Jaeger leads up on both websites.
Okay.
So yeah, they're on the ARCSIS site already.
A selfish plug, because that's something that Jack and I kind of went in on. But I said, look, people who want like a quality rubber boot are, and this is all going by people that I met that were in this kind of sport before me. I discovered the Jaeger lead when I picked one up in Denmark, I think. Wasn't that where we got them from? Denmark. And then
they're handmade in Denmark.
And I mean, I've still got the first one I bought 15 years ago. And I would tell anybody to look at that. It's just because it will literally it's like made out of bridal leather, real quality hardware. Even when I was a kid, I remember buying a pair of boots. Now, this would have been 1973. I was a busboy, I think in 1973. And I bought a pair of, like, my boots, probably like your boots back in the day, Jack. We went to Sears, right? That was it.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
I bought a pair of Browning hunting boots, and I kept the receipt for decades. It was $45.10 back then.
Wow.
And you could
that was a lot.
That was a lot. My dad saw the receipt on my dresser, and he blew a gasket. Okay. But
yeah,
those boots, and that was, you want to say things were better back in the day. I think that's true to some extent. That's kind of like why we kind of like going back to Europe for things, because, most of the heavy duty hunting boots, whether it's Mindel or Crispy, or I mean, coming up, they're all European made. There's a quality to that we just don't have here in manufacturing anymore. It's sad to say.
We don't have any rubber boot manufacturing here in the USA anymore.
I'm just correlating it to one of the reasons hunters still use leather boots made theirs, because that's where the best boots are made. And you're right, we don't have there isn't everything else is just basically synthetic, or I'm sure they have some rubber in it. Maybe they don't have any rubber in some of the boots we see. I don't know.
Well, some of them are maybe straight PVC, but most of the brands that are coming into the United States now may have like 1/3 to 1/2 rubber, and the rest of it's plastic and synthetics, which is why they crack so quickly. A year, tops 2 years. But an all-natural rubber boot, as long as you take care of the natural rubber and treat it like an organic material, which it is, it came from a tree. Right. So you have to just periodically treat the natural rubber in the boots. I had people at Pheasant Fest coming up to me saying, "Oh, I've had my gum leaf boots now for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years." I mean, so you can get that kind of life out of a natural rubber boot as long as you take care of the natural rubber. And it's not difficult. It just requires, treating them, spraying something like the Granger's rubber boot care on it, and spread it around with a microfiber, and, the boots are good to go. It just keeps the natural rubber soft and pliable so that it feels like a rubber band.
Right. And yeah, I've had my oldest pair are probably 6 years old. And if my biggest fault, and it's my fault, it's not the boots' fault, is I tend to take them on and off a lot. And I never used to zip up the Royal Zips. and the zipper would get so clogged up with weed seeds. I'd be like, son of a bitch. But that was on me. and
Yeah.
lubricating that zipper. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, my listeners have heard me talk about them for decades, and that's why we wanted to put this out there. People have wrote me occasionally, and I pass an email to you. And without me going into detail, that's why I wanted you on here to say, hey, this is where we're at. We're Jack is back. He's got a great rubber boot, and it's time. It's Father's Day coming up. Think about it.
Yeah.
I'm a father.
Yeah.
I'm a father. You think you can get me a pair by the 16th?
I'll see what I can do,
I
Dad.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. I know
Yeah, I think the gum leaf line, I'm guessing I have enough of those left, particularly of the Viking Neos, to get me probably into the fall of this year. And then, I don't know, we'll have some odd sizes and things like that. But if any of your listeners have any questions about either brand, the styles, the sizing, whatever, just have them give me a call. I'm keeping the same toll-free number for both companies. 844-486-5323. So you can call that one number, and you'll get me on my cell phone here directly. You don't get dial 1 for this or dial 2 for that. You'll get me directly on nights or weekends or whatever. So feel free to call anytime, ask any questions you want to about the boots, and we try to make sure that people have out-of-box successes, not out-of-box failures when it comes to sizing and fit and how they're going to be wearing them.
And you have a great, you ship them FedEx, right? Or is that not?
Yeah, FedEx ground.
And if you return it, it's if it has to be returned, that's not an issue, right?
No, not at all. As long as they haven't worn them outside. If you have any concerns, I send people a FedEx label. And as long as the boots haven't been outside, they can exchange them. We should talk first if they think they have to move up or down in sizing. There's some things we can do once they have a pair of boots on their feet, so we can determine if they need to go up or down 1 or 2 EU sizes. Or if, they get them and think, oh, well, I really don't like these boots at all, then I'm happy to refund the money on them, because, every pair of gum leaf boots that I brought in the United States, we ended up selling.
Right.
And I'm sure that's what will happen with my remaining inventory. So yeah, just don't wear them outside. Give me a call or an email if you're not thrilled with the fit. And, I'll send you an email, a FedEx return label for those.
Yeah. I think you really can't ask for much more. And like, I remember watching another podcast you were on with, what was that? The Beast. Dan
Anfeld.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things what they were telling their listeners, and you could see it in the chat room, is like, if there's a problem, you get you on the phone. You don't get your wife, you don't get your son, you get Jack. And I've been with Jack at a lot of trade shows, and Jack's on the phone. He's got the phone on his shoulder in his ear, and he's putting another pair of boots on someone's foot, and he's telling somebody else, okay, well, let's try this size. And I mean, I don't know, you weren't born a boot salesman, but you became a pretty good one, Jack.
Well, I'm kind of tied in a lot of ways to customer service the way that it was when you and I grew up.
Yeah.
And, so I like to try to offer people what I would like to see in customer service. And so, if you have a pair of lacrosse and you have a problem, good luck trying to reach the president of lacrosse. It ain't going to happen. Right. Or Mucks or Boggs or Extra Tough or Hunter or anybody else. But, again, anybody.
It's a little Russian roulette with the rest of the companies.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so that's part of what we're offering here, is just a higher quality product with better quality customer service than I think you'll find in most industries these days.
So going forward for the year, what are, not that they're going to memorize the styles, but you're going to get what, 4 or 5 of the styles in to start with? Or more?
Yeah, I'm bringing in the mid-calf boot. I'm bringing in the lightweight boot that has a zipper. I'm bringing in a product that's similar to the Royal Zip that has a full-length zipper. It goes down the very back of the boot rather than along the side of the boot. And I'm bringing in two straight up tall rubber boots that don't have any zippers. So they're kind of analogous to the Saxons and the field boots that we had in Gumleaf, but these are called the Pioneer is the cotton lined one, and the Pioneer Nord is a neoprene lined boot. So we've got the coverage that I had in terms of styles with Gumleaf, plus additional styles on top of that.
Well, for my older listeners who are, who either thought about getting Royal Zips, I will tell you to go for the Primo Nord Zip, because when you get old and a little achy and your shoulders don't go, and you try to get that outside zipper on the outside of your ankle, I've literally had to have people zip my boots when I need them zipped. But I can reach back to my Achilles heel and I could pull that zipper up. I can see that. So after you get me the short ones, I think we'll just auction off my gum leaves, and we're just going to go all Arxis. Okay. I don't know that.
Well, that brown pair of Royal Zips you have are collector's items. There's only 4 pairs of those in the whole world.
Ooh, that's right. I forgot about that. And that's a 44. That's like a 10.5, 11, right?
That's an 11. Yeah. You have a pair. I sent you a pair. I have a pair because I wear 11s. And Alistair Patterson, the founder of Gumleaf, has a pair. So the 3 of us have 3 of the 4 pairs of those that are the brown Royal Zips that are in the whole world.
And let's be honest, we didn't want to, let's not drop names, but Prince Charles has the 4th pair.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything.
We didn't have to drop that little bomb on everybody. Well, that's cool. And you'll be probably coming to Pheasant Fest again next year with me and setting up and showing your wares again.
Yep. Yeah, I will be. I'm trying to think between now and then. There's more of a deer hunting couple of shows that I'm going to be doing. One in Kalamazoo, Michigan, called Mobile Hunter, and there's another one coming up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I don't think I have any other shows scheduled right now that I'm going to be attending through the rest of this year. But yeah, I'll definitely be at Pheasant Fest again. I did go to the last NAVTA meeting, but I'm not sure where the next one is.
It's going to be in hell.
It might be out west. Do you remember?
It's going to be in hell if everything goes right. No, I'm just kidding. that's an inside NAVTA people.
Yeah, I understand.
It's going to be in Ohio, Jack. No, that's just a tongue in cheek.
Okay.
But I will tell somebody, I'll tell listeners, I'm probably, I would say, a bit on the rare side. A lot of my dog hunting friends, many of them are deer hunters. I mean, they may not be 40-day a year deer hunters, but they don't miss deer season, right? And they don't miss early season. But to get your eyeballs on a pair and feel them and see them, I mean, we have a big contingency, obviously, in Michigan. I'm from Michigan. Pennsylvania's huge on the downloads and the listeners. So those 2 shows at some point, maybe you should get me their dates, or we could do an Instagram post about them, because, I mean, walking into an outdoor show doesn't cost. I mean, they're always entertaining, and there'd be a way that they could kick the tires, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, both of those mobile hunting shows, I forget the name exactly of it, but it's something like Mobile Hunter or Mobile Hunting. Okay. They're both, I think, coming up in July and August of this year, a couple of weeks apart. So, if people want to stop by there, they can. I'll have both Gumleaf and the Arxis boots. They can try both on. Another nice thing about the Arxis boots I'm finding is that they're a tiny bit wider in the foot box. So I've already had people like at Pheasant Fest this year who tried on the Gumleaf boot, found that it was a little tight for them, but they tried on the Arxis boot and it was wide enough for them. So, if somebody's interested in stopping by either of those 2 upcoming shows, give them an opportunity to try both different brands on, and whether they buy next week, next month, or next year, at least they'll know what size and have seen them and tried them on if they're, if that's an important for them.
Right.
But otherwise, as I said, our return policy is very liberal. So, I can coach people I'd say probably 95% of my customers I end up talking with either on a chat line or by a phone call.
Yeah.
And so most of them I steer, into correct sizing, but, we can't get 100%. So hence we have a pretty liberal exchange or return policy on those.
Not that we can fix international shipping, but everything's got to come from, not everything, but a lot of stuff comes from overseas. Has that just gotten easier since COVID has waned away from us? Is getting just importing, did it get any more difficult? I mean, this is just a sidebar conversation. It did get more difficult. Okay, so
it's more difficult. Yeah. Matter of fact, I've spent like probably half of my time in the last month or so on the phone with almost every single department within FedEx, because the U.S. government now requires manufacturing additional information about the manufacturer down to the level of the address of the company that's manufacturing products. So, for example, those lamb's wool socks, when I brought those in, they pulled those aside and they want to know, well, who makes these? Where are these made? What's the address? And they assign a manufacturing number to them. And so it's really, it's I won't get into the details of it, but it's become a real pain in the ass to try to import of it. It's worse now than it was a year ago.
Wow.
And I don't know really why that is, other than our good government has decided they want to know who the manufacturer is for almost every product that comes into the United States now.
Oh, that's a little crazy. I was kind of hoping you'd say, no, it's a lot easier right now. No.
It isn't. It's a pain in the ass. It's really, it's the worst that in the 13 years or 12 years now that I've been importing gum leaf boots, it's never been as difficult and as challenging as it's gotten lately.
Wow.
So, yep.
Well, I don't know what else we can cover. Oh, you have I think which is really good. And forgive me if it was on your old gum leaf site, but you've got that page. It's called Information Points. And that's another piece where I'm not going to read them all. There's 12 bullet points, but comparing the millimeter of rubber compared to other brands, even, it seems to be a little sturdier construction.
Yeah, this is, make no mistake, the Arxis boot is a really high quality boot. I mean, it's really blown me away in its design, but yeah, if people go to the tech specs on the Arxis USA site, they'll see a lot of very detailed, very specific drawings and technical drawings about the soles, about the variety of different points to the boot's construction. Yeah. We have a size chart there, obviously, but there's a lot of very detailed information there, which, you only stick out there, that kind of information, if you're proud of, what you got,
Exactly.
Otherwise you wouldn't have a tech page if you really didn't want people to know or look into how your soles are constructed and all that stuff. Exactly. So to me, that's a really good sign.
Yeah, no, I think, I'll say, there'll be a memorial service for gum leaf someday, but we can have a celebration service and thanks to you for finding us another high quality natural rubber boot to bring in here. I remember talking to you when you were going to be, at one point you told me like, well, I guess maybe we'll see each other someday, Ron, but it won't be. And then when you found this boot, I looked him up and I said, whoa, shit. I don't want to say better, but I'm going to say the word better. You found a better mousetrap, Jack.
Well, it's at least as good. And as I said, I think if somebody's got big calves, then they should definitely just jump on the Gum Leaf website and grab a pair of the Viking Neos while they're still available, because Arxis doesn't have anything as big in the calf as the Gum Leaf Vikings, so they should jump on those. But just for future reference, they might want to take a look at the Arxis USA page as well, just to see what's coming. Well,
my listeners are proportionately built according to the AMA. Okay. We don't have big, we walk. Now, I'm not going to pick on your deer hunters because I know they buy a lot of boots from you. But a lot of them sit on their ass and their calves are fat. Let's be honest. It's not big calves.
Yeah.
Big calves are fat calves. Okay. So
Well, we could have a really long discussion about this, and it could not involve boots at all, but rather it could, involve diets, and it could involve portions that they serve at restaurants now, which is ridiculous. Of course, they've tripled the prices, so they double the size. My wife and I, whenever we go out now, we just split one thing, and we still bring home extra food. It's crazy.
Well, what do you think? Are we ever going to get a trip? We always wanted to go over. We always wanted to go over to the gum leaf plant. What about getting over to meet? What was his name? Magnus. What? You think we can get over to Sweden someday?
I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on a trip to Sweden right now. Actually,
I haven't gotten any emails about that, Jack.
Well, I haven't firmed up the dates yet, Ron. That's the only reason.
Okay, well,
besides, we'd want to swing down to Denmark too and meet the family that makes our Jaeger leads.
Yeah, that's true too. And
it's so close.
We need to do it in hunting season, okay? Because, Sweden is a hell of a hunting country. I mean, it's like it is. I'm sure this guy wouldn't have come up with this if he didn't think that's what the motherland needs. And
exactly, for sure.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for my listeners, and I don't have to. Now I can, on the weekly intro, we can make that intro another 30, 60 seconds longer by throwing gum. No, by throwing. How do you want me to do this now on the intro?
I don't know.
I mean, how about I just go? See, you could have just called them Butler boots. See, Butler boots is all you did. Jack Butler boots. Go to Jack Butler boots for the finest all rubber, waterproof hunting, fishing, hiking, deer hunting. So you tell me how you want me to do this on the intro. This is an info. This one I'm going to release. I won't even do an intro for this one. I'm going to say this isn't there's no intro because the whole show is an intro. But you gotta steer me how you want me to start doing this now, because Jack's back.
Yep. All right. Well, you and I will have to have a conversation about that, but we're definitely in a transition period between the two brands, so we'll have to figure that out as we go.
All right, Jack. I'm gonna let you go, and glad to see everything worked out. Glad to see you're back in the boot business, and I'm glad you found Arxis.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm looking forward to this transition period. And again, any of your listeners have any questions about either brand, just have them give me a call.
Yep, I will do that. All right, and they know that. Hang on one second here, Jack. All right, so anyway, just for the people who are going to watch this, this is the Arxis boot bag, and it's even got a layer of insulation in it. It's got a hard skid kind of bottom on it. And what I was talking about, when I'm doing my trips, my boots are staying in here. This is my carry-on bag for everything. And then I load, of course, I got my old gum leaves in there, but I load my toothbrush, my ditty bag, magazines, a pair of pants, pair of t-shirt, and there's plenty of room in there to zip that up, and it's a great carry-on bag. And I'm telling you, I'm in love with Arxis just because they got a boot bag.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, it is a really nice bag.
It's got a little fun fact here. Let me just show the people who are watching. Whoop, 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 whoop. It's even got a little zipper compartment on the back, much bigger than a passport, but I would say you could put I don't know what you could put in there. A lot. You could almost put a little iPad in there. That's nice. Now I know why that guy left Shamu and started his own boot company.
Yeah, he really knows what he's doing. I'm thoroughly impressed. So I'm looking forward to meeting him one of these days.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to putting them on my feet. Not that my gum leaves aren't still there, but and we should, in full transparency, it's not Prince Charles that had the fourth pair of brown gum leaves. It's Steve Rinella. So there.
There you go.
It's the, don't tell anybody. All right, Jack. I'm gonna let you go, and we'll be seeing you soon. And like I said, don't forget, people, that there's going to be a couple of shows. You can get a hold of Jack. You should probably have a pop-up on your website or something at some point that you're going to be somewhere. Because
Yep.
There is that percentage of people out there that like they want to try them on. Although we are all kind of using mail order these days. Going to one of those 2 trade shows is a great way to get to see the boot and put the boot on.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Mr. Ron.
We'll call it a night.
All right. Sounds good.
I gotta go put my rubber boots on and go train dogs.
I got to go have a beer. Bye.
Bye.